Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
IOS, it's only sport. Martin Devlin, Locked and War. That is the name of our radio show every day, 1 till 4 on the platform. That is the name of this podcast. What a weekend of sport to look back on. The All Blacks break all sorts of records versus Italy. The Penrith Panthers break Brisbane's heart and go back to back to back. Ryder Cup. Europe break the US, both on course and then by Rory Campbell in the car park afterwards. And Hawke's break the Ranfurly Shield, then break out the white powder to line up on its broken self. Crack the Spoomandy, break out the Van Harthogs. We're talking sport. As always, tablets in hand, I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. And Hawke's Bay, you're getting a serve. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Hawke's Bay Rugby, shame on you. Shame on your gutless, cowardly, childish response to the damage done to the Ranfurly Shield. That damage in itself is bad enough. But what is worse, what is a lot worse here, is the lying and the attempted cover-up around what went on, the damage to that beautiful piece of New Zealand rugby history. And now the photos all over the media of lines of drugs being snorted off the thing, and the subsequent behaviour of the CEO blatantly telling porkies. Yesterday, it was dropped on a concrete floor, and that's what caused it to be completely broken in two, said Jay Campbell, CEO of Hawke's Bay Rugby. Please, mate, you should be the first to resign for being a complete idiot. Look, we all know what happened. They won the Shield, they partied hard. Clearly, with the photos all over the press now, they partied even hardier. They got absolutely shite-faced, and somehow someone stood on it or dived on it or humped on it or jumped on it or whatever they did, and it broke. Accidents happen. We can all accept that. But what's not acceptable these days is trying to cover it up. This isn't the 60s or the 70s or the 80s. And these photos all over the national press of lines of white powder on the Shield and the tabletop, and New Zealand Rugby are officially investigating it. Just own up, one of you. Someone in that Hawke's Bay organisation, administration or players, be a man, act like a man and tell the truth. That's not going to happen. That's the only thing we know is not going to happen here. We all know the Shield didn't fall off a table. Hell, imagine if there was a person who fell off that same table. They'd be dead and somebody would be facing a manslaughter charge. Imagine if it was your cell phone. It'd be in 1,000 pieces. The disrespect, as I say, is one thing. But for the CEO to claim, as he did yesterday, it's a valued tongue of New Zealand rugby. Oh, we have so much respect as a trophy. Oh, for God's sake, mate, stop it. Just like the Super Rugby trophy the Crusaders used as a bottle top. Just like the time that they paraded the Super Rugby trophy, it had lost a handle down the main street of Christchurch. Oh, that fell off a table too. These guys are buffheads and they always have been. They're like a bunch of teenagers spewing on their first 12-pack of RTDs. All of that I don't care about, though. What I do care about is them being so stupid as to post photos on social media about their antics and then trying to pretend that nothing happened. And now there's going to be an investigation. I'll tell you how the investigation's going to end. New Zealand Rugby is going to conclude that it was the stripper in the Chiefs incident a little while ago who was tied to the 70-year-old bus driver, and they were on the Ranfurly Shield when it fell off the table. Come on. What a bunch of clowns. Cowardly clowns. Act like adults, act like men, stop the BS. Own up and act like grown-ups.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
And the attempted cover-up. We'll do some World Rugby after 2 o'clock. We'll do some EPL. We'll do some Ryder Cup, LBP after 3. So much to do, Lachlan, but first, headlines.
Yep. We sort of heard it there on the top of our news just around the Shield being taken off Hawke's Bay. It wasn't really well explained, but essentially what has happened, New Zealand Rugby, of course, investigating what has gone on with the images that have circulated on social media of the Shield being broken in half and then having what I just assumed was like Raro or maybe some sort of, Gatorade powder on the table. You got to rehydrate, replenish after the game.
Well, I mean, sports scientists are continually telling these guys your blood glycerin levels need readjusting and so forth, yeah.
Or maybe it was some flour to soak up the alcohol because there was some beers in it, so, In a statement, New Zealand Rugby Community General Manager Steve Lancaster
he got
said,
handed the hot potato, did he?
Yeah.
I tell you, we were talking about this in the office, and I say to Lachlan, the one person you won't be hearing from here is Mark Robinson. He has just turned his back on this. No, it's got nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me.
No, I'm in
this
France.
is not staining my career. It's your shite. You figure it out.
Yeah, well, whenever there's been an issue with New Zealand Rugby over the last year or so, he's never there to be heard from. He never fronts up. It's always Dane Patsy.
I can feel a review coming on.
Steve Lancaster saying NZR will now take possession of the Shield, begin the process of repair and reassess the protocols in place to look after it. Our intention is that the Ranfurly Shield remains a part of the community, is enjoyed by those who hold it and cared for as a taonga of our game. I just hope that Hawke's Bay don't get the Shield taken off them because they want it fair and square. So, they've been absolute dickheads in how they've behaved, but come on, you can't take it off them, surely. Rugby World Cup, South Africa this morning scoring 7 tries and moving a step closer to the World Cup quarterfinals with a 49-18 victory over Tonga. Tonga have been a little bit underwhelming at this tournament, so I don't think it's anything to really write home about. As well as that, Australia beating Portugal today, 34-14. My goodness, only won by 20 points. So Australia's hopes of actually getting out of the group stage, there are still hopes, but what needs to happen is Portugal need to beat Fiji in their last game. So as it stands, Wales and Australia are sitting first and second.
You know the best thing about this is?
What?
That the Aussie players have to wait.
They have to wait for another week, at least.
Wouldn't it be great if there was some kind of rebellion where Eddie Jones is still making them go to training? They just go, nah, stuff it, mate. None of us are turning up. We're going on the large. We know we're not. Wouldn't that be good? Just to see a photo of Eddie Jones and his 900 sports scientists sitting there with the tackle bags and the drones and the
on
computer.
Their own.
You're just waiting.
Well, then what if Fiji lose to Portugal?
Well, that could have Fiji struggled against Georgia.
Yeah, and Portugal have actually looked all right this tournament. They only lost by 20 to Australia, so you never know. All right, this morning in the Premier League, only one game on today. Nottingham Forest and Brentford drawing 1-1, a cracking game in the Premier League over the weekend. Plenty of controversy. My Liverpool on the receiving end of a lot of that. Manchester United losing to Crystal Palace. Man City losing to Wolves 2-1. They got their first loss. Liverpool losing to Spurs 2-1. Everton losing to Luton. I think it's Luton's first win of the season. The table as it stands, Man City on top, 18 points. Spurs is second on 17. Arsenal also on 17. Liverpool fourth on 16. Way down there in 10th is Man United on 9. Chelsea are still 15th, but they do play tomorrow morning. Ryder Cup, Europe survived a fierce American fight back to secure the 4 points required to reclaim the Ryder Cup, with popular Englishman Tommy Fleetwood sealing the deal. A nerve-jangling climax at the Marco Simeone course earlier today, this morning. And last night, the Penrith Panthers made it 3 premiership wins in a row, winning the NRL Grand Final. First team to do so since 1983 when Parramatta won in 81, 82, 83. So, yeah, good on Penrith. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin.
You better believe it!
The platform.
The Grand Final. How good. Just the most brilliant NRL season. And then it ends with a final like that. Look, I'm old enough to go back to 1989 and that incredible extra time, overtime win for the Raiders against my then beloved Balmain. Last night, one for the ages. Luke Priddis won grand finals with both Brisbane, that was in 2000, and then again with Penrith in 2003. So he's got a foot in both camps. He can explain the game. That game last night, mate, how was that? What a cracking finish.
Yeah, it certainly was. I think the first half was nice and tight like we all thought it would be, and then there's probably a great percentage of the viewers and the fans probably thought that Brisbane had done enough and were going to run away with it, but no, you don't get to be in 4 grand finals in a row if you don't have some sort of stiffness in your backbone, and that will go down probably as Nathan Cleary's finest 15 or 16 minutes, those last ones before the final bell.
Look, he just took charge, as all brilliant players, as all leaders do, and to have accomplished what he has at the age that he is, it's just extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, I sent a few text messages off last night to various people, and look, I don't think it's too early to say with what he has done and what he's accomplished that he'll be on that immortal list. Whether it's 15, 20 years time down the track, I think that's sort of a given. It's just what sort of dizzy heights you'll actually reach between now and then.
Let's break it down half by half to start with. This is my assessment, and you correct me if I'm wrong, of the first half. I thought that the Panthers probably left a couple of tries out there in the first half, and I just didn't. I couldn't figure out what Brisbane were trying to do. There was just so much unnecessary risk-taking from them. Yeah,
you're certainly right. I thought that young Tago should have passed the ball to toe a couple of times there just to give him a chance to get into the corner. No, that's what they've been doing all year, but he held on to that. But, I think, look, realistically, I think Billy Slater said it pretty early on in the commentary that Reece Walsh needed to get his hands on the ball and actually get dirty at number one before the magic started to come from him. And I think he sort of left himself a bit out of the game in that first half. But, due credit to Brisbane, they defended really well, and Penrith had all the ball, and as you said, probably should have been a few more points up, and that try just before half-time under the post was pretty critical, and obviously that changed the momentum, and they came out in that second half, the Broncos, and sort of decimated Penrith, and it was probably just a different game to what Penrith thought it was going to go. Usually they come out after half-time and start to kick away, but due credit, probably that inexperience of Brisbane probably thought they could put the cue in the rack, and the one thing about this Penrith side is that they don't give up. No, they play the full 80 minutes. It's not a 70-minute game. It's not a 75-minute game. No, it's an 80-minute game, and that's where they got away with it.
Just listening to Kevin Walters at the press conference afterwards, and also the post-match comments from Adam Reynolds. I feel also for the broadcasters in these situations, because you've got to ask some questions. I don't even know what you meant to ask, though, because whatever you ask, if you ask about the game, the guy's got such a glum face, he doesn't really want to talk. It's an awful moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. I didn't sort of get to see the press conference, but as I said, no, it's all left out there on the field, so it's pretty hard to come there and sit in front of a pack of journalists that are trying to angle for a story or something and say really what you want to say. No, he's no doubt had a great conversation with his guys back in the sheds and said what needed to be said after that game, and that's the most important thing. But it's pretty hard. As a player, Kevy's been there as a player, as a coach as well. This is obviously his first opportunity as a coach, so it's got to be devastating. Realistically, I think as a professional, all you've got to do is really just try and say, well, no, it's a better side won on the day, and we'll be back bigger and better next year and work harder to go one more. That's pretty much all you can say as a coach and a captain of a losing side.
Luke Priddis with us on the platform. 3 in a row. Hasn't been done since the Eels did it in 81, 82, 83. Talk about the significance of that, Luke, when you haven't done something for 40 years in this game. And also, you're talking about playing playoff games at the end of a season. And when you add in the Rugby League World Cup games last year, some of these guys, it feels like the Penrith guys in the space of 3 or 4 years have probably packed in almost another season's worth of intense games during that time. So that elevates it in my mind to something that is just, it's superhuman almost.
Yeah, certainly. I suppose when you consider that side of Parramatta, I'm sure there was probably a kangaroo tour in there somewhere. So,
yeah, right.
But, oh, shit. There's a massive dog coming after me.
Oh.
Just broken through a fence.
Oh, my God. How big is it?
It's a big Rottweiler.
Right. Okay.
Stop it, mate. I'm sorry.
That's all right, mate. Stop and look at it. Stop and stare at it. If you run away, apparently it means they want to eat you.
I'm walking backwards at the moment.
Okay.
I don't think it's on the nose, it's just busting through the fence. There you go, that's live radio.
Well, that's live radio. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm glad. I tell you what, you'd probably rather face that Penrith Ford pack.
Oh, yeah. Still coming.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
That's okay. This is what happens, ladies and gentlemen. Dog broken through fence. Is it still walking towards you?
Let's watch out. There's a dog that's just come through a fence up there. And it's walking on the road at the moment. It doesn't want to come across the road. That's my good deed for the day, warning that lady.
Yeah, man.
I think he's walking back now. Right.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Let's go back to that. To win it 3 times in a row, just an amazing feat of endurance as much as anything else.
Yeah, certainly. And it's probably more special these days too. Like salary cap wasn't probably around there when Parramatta were playing. But the salary cap's obviously been brought in to even out the sides, and no doubt, Penrith have lost a couple of great players over the last couple of years. Probably, salary cap probably hasn't hit as hard as what it is last year and this year. That makes it a great feat. And as you mentioned, rep football and all that. the amount of games that these blokes play these days is quite intense. But no, on the flip side, the RLPA has also done a good job in that extent that, these blokes probably didn't come back till mid-January, and that's probably why Penrith had that sort of slow start. Most of the players clearing that didn't have trials, etc. And that's only good for the game to make sure that we've got our superstars at the end of the year for these great games.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. What was remarkable, says Ben, about Cleary's last 18 minutes was the 15 minutes before that when he missed 2 tackles, which led directly to 2 Brisbane tries. So it's very hard as a player to move on from those, let alone become the hero. Very good point.
Next!
Lachlan, as a Brisbane fan, at what point last night did you start to get the heebie-jeebies and start to go, ooh, hang on a second, we're up 24-8 here, this is in the bank, where, hang on, what, when?
As soon as they got their first run, second half.
Really?
Yep, as soon as that happened, I remember it really well because up until that point, when we got our fourth try, Sorensen went off for an HIA, Isaiah Yeo got a head knock, Luai had gone off with a shoulder injury. Their players were just dropping like flies, and we had our pace, we had them beat. And then they got that try, and then the momentum just started to swing back towards them. And the one thing I've said about the Broncos all throughout this year, and I said it last year, I get nervous when our backs are against the wall and we need to see out a game by playing old-fashioned style rugby league like what we needed to do last night. And I went to the bathroom and I just sort of went, And they got that second try, their second try, and then when he hit the 40-20, I was getting really nervous.
Who do you blame? You singled out a couple of players?
It's hard. I don't think we played bad. I think we were gassed. I think this is a little bit like the All Blacks and the Springboks in that game at Twickenham. We absorbed so much pressure in that first half.
Yeah, there should have been a couple of tries.
They should have. And the fact that we were only down by 2 and then we had that pace in the second half, and the pace was from Ezra Mam and Reece Walsh, who were pretty quiet in the first half. But I just thought that the constant pressure from them on our own goal line just would have sapped the energy out of our forwards. And so I wonder if that came into play towards the end. There was a play where Jordan Ricky should have passed it out to Selwyn Cobbo on the right wing. Had he done that, Cobbo would have had a really good chance to score a try. He dummied and got tackled short of the line. There was a Pat Carrigan knock on an hour and a half. By the time they had made it a 12-point game, I think, which didn't help. 10-point game. And then towards the end, defensively, there were a couple of holes. Reece Walsh was caught out on a kick towards the end goal. I think that's when his head was pretty much taken off by the Penrith player. When Crichton scored his try with 3 guys coming over and none of them managed to get a hand on the ball to at least hold him up. So there were little moments, but I don't think there was an absolute glaring issue in that last 20 minutes.
Was that a Brisbane try in the first half? The answer is no.
Well,
the answer, he was short.
No. By the rules, yes, because the ref awarded it and there wasn't sufficient evidence to overturn it.
Angle,
well, I didn't think...
Here you are, you're going to moan about Liverpool and Tottenham and the VAR, but that one there's a try, even though it's quite obvious that it's not a try.
No. It's the whole... The ref awarded it on field.
I know.
There needs to be sufficient evidence to overturn it.
But was there when you saw the replay? No.
That wasn't sufficient.
Next!
Are you bitter and twisted or are you more disappointed?
I'm not bitter. I'm not really disappointed because I didn't think we'd get to the grand final, let alone be so horribly close. Not to be dramatic, I'm heartbroken, if anything.
Okay.
Because I thought we'd won it. I was running around the flat. I was getting ready to spray a beer out of the balcony. I was just pumping up. I was great.
Can you look back on the season with satisfaction, or is it a bit too early right now for that?
It's too early.
Okay.
Next!
Did you lose to a better team?
Yes. Penrith are a better team.
Next!
I said that going into the game. They're a better team than I thought they'd win.
Reece Walshy. Is he going to learn from this experience? Because as a player, it can do one of two things to you. It can Ben Hunt you, or you get better from it. I thought you were too loose. I thought you were spraying and playing at a level that you didn't need to in that particular game. And there was a classic in the first half where he got the ball, and the commentators were saying this, instead of running straight, he did the Jerome Luai, he tried to skip across in front of his own post and put you under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think...
I'm not pointing the finger at him entirely, but I'm just saying that there was a lack of experience on his part at the right.
Yeah, the timing of it wasn't right. But his play in the second half was really ripping the Panthers apart, because that was the point at which the fatigue for the forwards is really setting in, so there's gaps in the defence. There was 2 kicks. One went dead, and the other one was caught in goal, which led to 7 tackle sets. There were just a couple of moments where he was really off, and the bloke's 20.
Yeah.
Then again, Ezra Mam's 20.
I know, you got plenty.
And he scored 3
brilliant
tries.
Question. At the beginning of the season, what were you predicting? Were you predicting you'd get through to the grand final?
Top 8.
Yeah, okay.
I thought would be sort of 6, 7, 8, that range.
Moan. I'm moaning sick all the time. Oh, I got to moan on, all right. I got to moan on. VAR. Just rack off, mate. Just crawl back to the snivelly, can't accept reality, can't accept humanity, 30-second attention span, dick pic Instagram generation, which demanded that technology take over all our sports. The Premier League is now a worldwide joke. Yesterday, the 3rd time already this season that VAR has got it so horribly wrong, costing a team a result and valuable Premier League points in the process. Wolves were robbed of a clear pen at Old Trafford. Man City got a glaringly offside goal given at home to Fulham. Liverpool yesterday robbed of a crucial first goal at Tottenham. They eventually lost 2-1. And all the Premier League do is issue another official apology, promise to have another extensive review, more reviews than New Zealand rugby. The constant hysterical demands across all sport for more technology, more official interference. And what has happened? They still get it wrong. VAR, TMO, the bunker, they still all get it so totally, stupidly, inexplicably wrong. Unless you accept that human beings will always make errors, nothing at all will ever get better. Let the referees and the linos and the on-field officials decide. Let them also decide if and only if they feel they need to use the technology. Otherwise, shut up, butt out, and leave the game alone. The Premier League is a joke, and it all starts with the VAR bloke.
Devlin,
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
the platform.
Should have been a weekend of celebration for Hawke's Bay Rugby, the Magpies. They lost the Ranfurly Shield last year to Wellington. They won it back against Mylop on the weekend. Peltry crowd, no interest really in it. A trophy that is beloved in this country by a certain generation ends up broken and smashed on the floor. Oh no, that's right. It fell off a kitchen top. I mean, please. You could buy a $20 job from the warehouse Kmart, a breadboard, drop it off your kitchen bench onto your kitchen concrete floor and see whether it splits in half like that, covered in pikelet powder. Somebody's telling porkies, Jamie Wall. You are one of the few that's been able to connect and call the Hawke's Bay CEO, who now has his phone off. So that's the best way to respond to this, isn't it? To do the ostrich and pretend nothing's going on. So let's break it down to start with. And no pun intended, what do we make of the fact, first and foremost, that the shield broke?
Oh, I mean, it's disgraceful, really, that this has happened, and it's not even the first time this has happened in the last few years. We had the Crusaders doing it the other year with a trophy that had deep meaning to the people that had made it for different reasons, but still was like not a great look.
It was used as a bottle opener, is what it was, right?
Exactly, yeah. And now this has happened, and look, man, I'm still playing club rugby. I know what happens after games, and I think if you
Jamie, we all do. We're all adults, mate. Come on.
Exactly. We're all adults, and also I'm very much a believer that accidents happen. And if you're going to take a piece of wood and drop it on a concrete floor, and that's what they've said has happened. And you're right. I did talk to Jay Campbell, Hawke's Bay Rugby CEO, last night, and he had a pretty compelling case because I thought about it. I saw that press release at first and thought, oh, come on, guys, like, what really happened? But he said to me, well, the only way it could really end up in the state that it's in is if it got dropped on its point. And I sort of came to agree with him. I think the context that was missing out of that is that all those guys had been on the piss for about 12 hours in between when they won it and when it got broken. And I think that's the issue that Hawke's Bay and also New Zealand Rugby is going to have a hard time really just kind of admitting really.
Well, they won't
about.
admit it. And this is the worst
For
thing
all-
about it. Okay, look, there's a couple of things about this. I don't mind the fact that they had a 12-hour, 24, 3-day, 4-week, 2-month party. I don't care. I don't mind the fact that they behave like bozos and buffheads, like my teenage son and his mates down in Dunedin, who are students who do the same thing. I don't mind all of that. Look, we've all done it. And I also understand when the euphoria of sports teams and all of that. What is wrong here is the attempted cover-up and the continued BS and the lies that New Zealand rugby have done for decades. We had Darren Shand on the program, the All Black manager, about, 4 weeks ago or so, and he said his biggest single regret, Jamie, is the covering up they did with Jimmy Cowan. He said that if they had have actually acted like adults and men and handled that situation, well, then Jimmy would never have descended to the place that he descended, and now he's actually in a great place and all of that kind of stuff. Rugby has forever tried to cover up its sins. So all they're doing is digging themselves a bigger hole. Now, if I can actually, you could get 1,000 bits of wood and drop them off a table onto a floor. They're not going to split in two like that, mate. Somebody fell on it. That's okay, Jamie. We all understand that. As you say, it's an accident. What's not an accident is the attempt to pretend what went on wasn't what went on when we all know what went on. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. But I don't think it's just a rugby problem. I think that's a New Zealand problem. I think that's very much the way that we deal with our issues as a society. And it's something that perhaps, at least, because we're in a position to bring this out into the cold, hard light of day, that we can help kind of change that. Because the way that we as a society, have to cover things up and not talk about them, is much to our great detriment. I mean, this is a pretty big sort of conversation that sort of goes beyond the realms of sport, but that's the way I see it. And that's why I think issues in rugby become as big as they do, because it is our national game.
Yeah.
And for all the chat that we do every week about how it's dying and things like that, it still does very much represent us as a society. So I think that this is something that maybe we can sort of learn from as a community around this. I'm sorry to get a little bit wishy-washy on it, but that is how I'm feeling.
I'm not apportioning blame. I'm not pointing fingers here. But what I would really like is I'd like one of these players. I've got a lot of respect for Brad Weber, for example, as a player and as a person. I like what he stands for. I like his values. I would like somebody like him just to put his hand up and front up and say, listen, we apologise for the damage done to that thing. Yeah, we had a bit of a party and we acted a bit the fool and all of that. And everyone would forgive that and they'd laugh about it. But now, of course, because somebody in that state decided that they would either manufacture a photo where they've spread white powder over a table in lines on the shield, which looks as though somebody's been snorting drugs. And it looks, I'm not saying it's happened, it's an allegation, of course, and think that that's funny to put on social media. So there's one of two things. They're either snorting drugs off the thing or they are manufacturing a photo to make it look as though they are and they're putting it on social media. Either way, Jamie, how much brain has gone into that, for example?
Well, that's the most disappointing thing for me, is how stupid the whole thing is. And I mean, how many stories have you and I heard about the Ranfurly Shield over its history?
Oh, everyone's humped and bumped and jumped on it. Of course, mate, yes.
Exactly. But what disappoints me the most is someone's been dumb enough to film it and then share it with everybody. I mean, how stupid can you be?
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Yeah, I catch on quickly, don't I?
The Type 5.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute or so on each. And when the bell, we move on to the next one. We got to talk about the All Blacks versus Italy, lot, because it was quite a performance from New Zealand. We put on 96 points in that game. But what does it mean going into the quarterfinal? The Grand Final, speaking of finals, the Ryder Cup. And once again, the United States can't seem to play when they cross the transatlantic. What is that? What's that about? VAR, Ranfurly Shield, and Tay-Tay's on the bloody screen again, Lachlan. Let's start with the All Blacks versus Italy. I'll give you a bit of a breather before we go back to the Grand Final from last night. I thought we were good. These are the notes that I made. We are very good when we're allowed to play. When we get fast, clean out, front foot ball, when we play at pace, when the opposition forget to tackle, when we are allowed to keep the ball in play, no stoppages, continuous phases, we are very, very good. The main thing is not to get carried away. These are the notes I was writing during the game. We played really well, But that game, that result, even that performance is going to count for squat when we play Ireland in the quarterfinal. Is that a reasonable and fair summation of the 80 minutes?
Yeah, I think so. Look, Italy have been a pretty half-decent side the last year or so. I mean, they beat the Wallabies last year and they were competitive.
Well, you've got to be a good side to do that.
Well, they were pretty competitive during the Six Nations, even though they lost every game. But to put 96 of them was actually quite good. But again, to me, it's not... They are not the kind of opposition that we're going to face in the knockout phase. This isn't taking on Scotland or Argentina or South Africa or anyone else who are probably going to be in the knockout stage. So you can't take much out of it at all. But we do this. We beat up on the lesser teams.
We do it in Super Rugby.
Yep.
We now do it in international
We always
rugby.
look good against these teams who are a couple of pegs below us. But when it comes to the teams who are on our level... We're not in the fight.
Did you learn anything about the way that we need to play? See, I didn't even learn that. To me, it's obvious. We've got to start like a rocket. We've just got to keep the ball and play. No stoppages. But these other teams, as I keep saying week after week, Lachlan, they're there to stop us playing. And it's a legitimate tactic. Ireland, South Africa, they are going to sit down, slow down, start the game. Because if we get momentum and flow, you can see what happens. You know, where you hardly get a hand on any of our players. But are we going to be allowed to play like that in the quarterfinal?
No. We're not going to have the space. We're not going to have the time. We won't get the go forward around the trenches and around the ruck.
Plus, the Irish guys are going to tackle us. Whereas, the Italians put their tanks in reverse like they did the Second World War, didn't they?
Yeah, that was very good. Yeah, good joke.
Not a lot of guts and determination and want and will to stay in the fight.
What looked good is when we spread the ball out wide and we find space and we've got little cool, fancy little cross kicks in and all that, but that stuff doesn't happen if you are getting beaten up in the middle and you can't retain possession.
A couple of other things about the game. Sam Whitelock, 149, what do you say?
Spectacular.
Yeah.
Just brilliant.
Living legend in New Zealand rugby. Speaking of, Shag as a halftime pundit. I thought he was great.
I thought it was very good.
I thought he was great.
Yeah. He's actually analysed it. He talked about the game. At the end of it, if you would have had anyone like Israel Dag or any of the other people that they use after winning 96-17 or whatever the score was, they would have been like, oh, the All Blacks are back. Here we go. Or Jeff Wilson or Sir John Keelan. Oh, this is great. It's exactly what we need. And Shag said, well, it wasn't a complete performance, but, it was good.
I texted him. I said, mate.
Is that you? I see with makeup on the TV, mate.
What did he say?
Yeah, it is, mate.
I said, you're actually bloody good. I think you're a really good pundit. I thought you explained things really clearly, concisely, and what you said I wanted to listen to.
Yeah, well, you'd like to think that one of our greatest coaches would be pretty good.
You might have a job on TV then, mate. Grand Final then. You've had another hour to think about it.
What do you
Put
want to
that
know?
photo up on social media. Not the photo of you, the Ranfurly Shield and the lines. Put the photo up of you on your knees with your head in your hands at the final whistle last night.
Maybe.
At what part of the game did you stop talking? Because that's the other point. When you stop, with one of your mates during a game when they're watching a grand final,
right.
if all of a sudden they stop talking, I go, what? Hang on a second, what's going on there?
Yeah, no, you're right, because I was just pumping the air. I was saying all these things. I was making jokes. I was having a great
you're the life
time.
of the party, mate.
And then I think the 40-20 and then the Crichton try, I was silent for the last 10-15.
Were you pacing?
Yes.
So you stood up at that stage?
Oh, I don't sit. I sat at the final whistle. I just fell into the couch and I just sat there staring at the TV.
And how long between final whistle and beddy night?
For some ridiculously stupid reason, I actually kept the TV on until they lifted the trophy. And then I went to bed and I was awake for about an hour and a half.
I was just going to say, you wouldn't have gone to sleep
I
anyway.
didn't go to sleep. I was just lying there awake, contemplating what the hell I just watched and how heartbroken I am.
Ryder Cup. Why can't the United States play in Europe? Gary Magos will answer this question for us.
Yeah, because I don't really watch the Ryder Cup. And I was.
But you're aware of the results?
I'm aware of the results. I was very enveloped by other sports over the weekend, including Liverpool on Sunday morning.
See, okay, well, what we'll do then in that case is we'll let Graham explain all of this because he's the expert on that. Okay, Liverpool, VAR. Now, this VAR decision, if you go back and watch it, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to Tom Rennie about this before 3 o'clock. It's not one of the traditional VAR cock-ups where you're thinking, is that offside line right? Did he get a toenail in front? Is it a hair's breadth? All of that. It was. The linesman threw his flag up, thought it was offside. A goal was scored. The referee awarded the goal, the guy on VAR did the referee, whatever it was,
the goal was never awarded.
The goal wasn't
so the on-field decision was offside.
Was offside.
And so what then happened was the VAR said check complete without bringing out the lines and actually properly checking it.
Because it was quite obvious that the guy was onside. You see, so
without the lines, it looked like he was.
Yeah, so he just thought that the goal had been awarded, and so he said check complete, go ahead. Whereas they got miscommunication going on, and so the ref then said, he must be thinking no goal. Whereas the guy in the VAR was thinking, yeah, it was. He thought a goal had been awarded.
Oh, had he?
Yeah, that's.
I didn't know that. I just thought for some stupid reason.
No, that's where it broke. That's where it broke down. So neither of them were talking to each other. And then when he realised, the guy in the VAR realised, hang on a second, he's awarded no goal. I thought he had awarded the goal. He didn't actually then go back to the ref and say, no, I just cocked this up. Okay, so we'll talk to Tom about this.
Well, I mean, but it wasn't just that, because anyone else who watched the game, and even if you're a Spurs fan, if you're a decent objective person, you would have watched that game and gone, okay, there's so many 50-50 calls going against Liverpool here. They've gotten a ton of yellow cards that probably aren't fully deserved. I think the red card is debatable. I can see why the first one, the Curtis Jones red card.
Yeah, I would have read it.
Well, I can see why, but I don't think it's fair to say that's a red card. But one of the worst officiated. Not as bad as that, but the one that comes to mind when I think of what else was terrible like this was that Chelsea-Barcelona Champions League semi-final.
Oh, that was
appalling.
You're talking. This goes back to 2009.
2009,
ladies. Yeah, second in 2009. VAR. Every week with the Premier League, we just seem to be moaning about the VAR. Why can't these goons get it right? The technology's in front of us. We all look at the same pictures. We've all got eyes, and yet you're looking at the picture that I'm looking at, and that you think black, and I think white. Spurs versus Liverpool. The controversy rages on. From talkSPORT, Tom Rennie. Tom, it's all about Tottenham, Liverpool, the VAR, the worst ever decision, the worst ever refereeing. Can we call it that?
You know what? It's funny. I've been mulling that over since calling the game on Saturday, whether I'd seen worse. And there are some terrible decisions that have happened over the years, but most of them come down to some sort of subjective decision or misinterpretation, or, you can almost explain them away. A lot of the decisions that we've had rows about over the years. This one is truly staggering, and it's individual incompetence. Because look, we have seen previously loads of times an offside be tight. Is it a toenail? Is it a nose? All that sort of stuff. We've had moments where they put the wrong line on the wrong player, and you think, oh, okay, look, they're trying to work quickly. They went to this bit, and it was actually that bit. That's fine. What happens here, incredibly, is that it's given offside on the field. Luis Diaz is given offside incorrectly, but that's fine. They let the play out. He scored a goal. He put the flag up. It's the current protocols. It's why they do VAR. Then after that, they check it. And the VAR watching on television back at Stockley Park, the assistant VAR sitting alongside him, and the Hawkeye technical bod are all sitting there, and they've drawn the line, they've seen the line, they can see he's onside. They then say, go with the on-field decision. Now, that's the right thing to say if the flag on the field didn't go up. It did go up, and so that's a little simple miscommunication. And even that's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. So I tell you, Martin, give the goal. The goal is given or not given, right? Easy peasy. But then he realises, oh, wait, hold on a second. They've not given the goal. They're doing a free kick. So all he has to do then is say, ref, sorry, stop it. Stop the play, blow your whistle. You didn't hear me right. What I meant to say was that goal was given. So this is simply a phone call between two people where one of the guys, when he'd given an instruction, the wrong instruction, was too afraid to correct it. It is a very basic element of human nature to want to cover up your mistakes. A very basic element of human nature to be fearful of being embarrassed and humiliated. But what is amazing about this is when you do something like that, usually you'll probably get away with it. This one was being watched by 60,000 people in a stadium and roughly 20 million people watching around the world, if not more. They were never, ever, ever going to get away with it. And the VAR had loads of time to change it, loads of time to correct. And I've heard some things today about, but once you've given it, the rules say you've got to allow that decision.
Rubbish, mate. Everyone wants the decision to be right. That's all it is, Tom. And look, you know, I've got a lot of empathy for the guys in those positions, guys and girls in those positions now, because they are freaked out. They are scared ever since that diabolical Wolves no penalty decision at Old Trafford. And this is what we've created. And when I say we, it is all the moaners, whingers, whiners and millennials who've demanded that technology impose itself on our sports in ways we don't want it to impose itself, Tom. Go back to the referee deciding, and if the referee has instinct and thinks I need to have a look, he can run over to the TV screen and look. But the rest of it, just abolish it, because we've tried to create technology to fix all these things, and all it's done now is leave a whole lot of people in positions where they're freaked out and they don't want to make decisions, as you say, because they're fearful of getting it wrong and then what that cost is going to be to them, both job-wise and also personal humiliation and everything else. Did it cost Liverpool the game? I would have thought 2 red cards might have done that.
Well, look, there's a possibility that is the case, yeah. But the thing is, this is why I think this is such an egregious and such a damaging moment for the video assistant referee program, is that I agree to your point to a degree. I wouldn't get rid of it. I'd make some fundamental changes that are, essentially the referee's got his phone on his arm like every jogger ever. And if he wants to check something, he looks at his phone and watches it back again just to think, am I right, am I wrong? And so it take away all this kind of middle management of it. So, I'd make some changes. I'd never get rid of it, but I certainly would make some changes. But in this particular instance, goals matter so much. They are the most important thing in football. It's why the strikers earn the most money. It's the thing we celebrate the most. It is the most important thing in football. So goals change games. So would they have lost the game anyway? Potentially. Would those red cards have happened? Maybe. The Son goal that puts Tottenham ahead happens about a minute and a half, 2 minutes after this goal is disallowed. And you've been in stadiums when something great happens for your team, like the opposition miss a penalty or something is disallowed. There's a huge lift in the stadium. This lifted Tottenham and they went on to score. So maybe we'll never know if Tottenham would have gone on to win it. But what we do know is this fundamentally changed the game. And it was through sheer fearful incompetence of individuals who, look, I have some sympathy, but it's too much. This is a sackable offence. This is, you are not capable of doing this job if you can't say, oh, actually, that's a goal, you should give it. That's so basic, and it's pathetic beyond comprehension that he wouldn't have just gone, oh, no, wait, have we told the wrong thing? Oh, let's correct that. They were like, oh, well, we've moved on now. It's diabolical.
LBP with TMG. Let's be positive with Twizel's Matt Gunn. What a great weekend for sport we've had. The All Blacks are back laying down a statement, telling the rest of the world that if you turn up with a team like Italy, we can dick you like that. The Wallabies are still in France. Torturous. They got to stay there till the final pool match is played and aren't allowed to come home, even though they are coming home. And Hawke's Bay, the Ranfurly Shield, and snorting drugs off that trophy. How the hell are we going to be positive about that, Matt? Let's be positive, Matt. The All Blacks are back and have made a statement at the Rugby World Cup. The Wallabies' hopes of reaching the quarterfinals are still alive. And it's so good to see that the traditional celebration of just getting absolutely wankered and snorting drugs off a sports trophy is still alive and well and kicking in New Zealand rugby.
Well, let's start there, Marty. I don't think we want to jump to conclusions. I mean, for all we know, it could have been protein powder. These guys,
could have been.
They're doing a lot of weightlifting. They need the strength. It could have been a Rara.
Could have been.
It could have even been some Gatorade powder to just rehydrate after what was a fantastic Ranfurly Shield win. How many times has the Shield been broken now? It looks to me to be a simple glue and clamp job. But at the same time, if my wife had have been on scene, she would have taken the Shield and she would have locked it in a boot and said, you don't take it with you to a party. I know what you and your mates are like. It'll end up broken.
There you go.
She'd have forecast
There you go. There you go. I mean, look, and this is the whole thing about it. I mean, look, I don't have any problem with them partying. And I also know that under these circumstances, mate, I've been talking about this all day on the show, that things happen, and I genuinely believe it was probably an accident. It didn't fall off a table, because, Matt, if you fell off that same table, I'd be visiting you in Timaru Hospital for the next 2 years, okay? You would have broken every bone in your body. So it didn't fall off a table. Somebody jumped on it or humped on it or did whatever it did. That's okay. But you and me have worked in this job for a long time. It's just the constant lying that gets me more than anything else. Even after all of this time, you know, where rugby wants to be open and liberal and rainbow and loving and caring and care for our community, or just all of this crap they keep ramming down our throats, it's still a bonehead, buffhead sport full of guys who just want to get wasted, smash each other and do things like they did, right?
Well, I just think that sums it up, Martin. You know, they're partying. The boys want to do what the boys want to do. It doesn't happen very often that you win a shield like this. And look, you know, it was being used potentially as a cheese board with some lovely prosciutto, a nice blue, some crackers and a little bit of hummus. And it got dropped as somebody slipped on a spilt drink on the way back to the living room. Who knows? But nothing would surprise me about this party. All I know is that there is an investigation that will take place, and it will be deep and it will be long, and at some point Jay Campbell, the Hawke's Bay chief executive, he will get to the bottom of this.
He will. Let's turn our attention to the All Blacks, mate, and be positive about that, because hitting Italy for 96 just proved to the rest of the world that come that quarterfinal against Ireland, this result's really irrelevant. I mean, I'm sorry. Look, I don't want to be glass half empty here, guy, but I mean, I loved the performance. I love the fact that we were cohesive. I love the fact we selected the A-team. I love all of those kind of things. I just don't know what to read into it.
Yeah, I don't want to be the negative guy either. And I think the reason so many people are cock-a-hoot about what they saw is that that's the kind of game they expect the All Blacks to play. And they did. You know, it was flowing, they had depth, they did all the right things. The point being really is that it was against Italy, who gave away 14 penalties and missed 33 tackles. And I just don't think that Ireland will win 25% of their lineouts and lose 5 out of 11 scrums. I don't think that will happen. So the point you are making is, can you translate that form to performing against South Africa, Ireland, France, etc. And the real point is, Italy were poos. They weren't much good. The commentators kept saying they're making great gains out wide. Well, I couldn't see that at all. I mean, they got 17 points in the end. You might as well just give them 25 and say, be done with it.
Yeah.
Disappointing that the All Blacks didn't hit 100, to be fair.
Are the Wallabies still in contention? I mean, there's a sliver of possibility that Portugal... Oh, actually, no, Fiji only need 1 point from that game, don't they? So the great thing is you have to hang around and wait. That's the best bit of this, isn't it?
I don't think... You know, things always come back to bite you, don't they? I remember saying the week before the start of this tournament, we're in the best pool. We're in an easy pool. And then we got beat by both Fiji and Wales. We are sitting hoping. I mean, at the end of the day, even though Eddie still believes he's got the goods, he can take them forward. They're a young team and they'll only get better. I just don't feel they deserve to get out of pool play. Do you?
Well, look, I mean, it comes down to results, mate. And the thing is you didn't win.
Well,
you know, you lost to Fiji. You lost a game that you should have won. And that's all there is to it. The great thing about these tournaments is... The table doesn't lie. You get as many points as you get. That's all there is to it. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable! Incredible!
The Platform.